Mic check. Peas and carrots, peas and carrots. Holiday bonus episode. Hi, I'm Ashley Daigle, and this is advice from the Cheerbrarian. And today I have something special and a little bit different for you. I am almost done with this wonderful break that I'm taking, but I wanted to get an episode to you that I thought might be helpful for this time of year. So, a few months back, I was a guest on the High Vibe Table Talks podcast, and Marshawn and I had a wonderful conversation about digital detox and breaking up with your phone, which you heard me talk about before because I read the book by Catherine Price, and I am obsessed, I think in a good way, with trying to use my phone less. And as you know, the new year is upon us, that may be something that you have an eye toward, that you're thinking about, how can I maybe alter or examine the relationship I have with social media and with my phone. So I have this wonderful conversation that I think could be helpful. So take a listen, and I hope you enjoy.
Jazzcast Pros.
We talk about different relationships often on this podcast, and not just with relationships with people, but also relationships with more ambiguous things. Like, what is your relationship with no, the word no? What is your relationship with boundaries? And today's question is, what is your relationship with your phone? It's a really interesting question, especially as entrepreneurs, but just people in general living in today's society. You have a relationship with technology. Maybe your boundaries are really strong. Maybe you get that weekly report and feel a lot of shame. Anywhere that you are on that spectrum, I think you can benefit from listening to today's conversation. Ashley Daigle and I chat about the book, How to Break Up with Your Phone, which was really mind-blowing for me. She gives us some great tips and techniques of how she creates boundaries and maintains her relationship with her phone. You know, I spend a lot of time on social media. I promote myself on Instagram and Threads, and I like going on TikTok, and so there's this balance of how much am I spending for work versus how much is pleasure, and all of those kind of conversations. And if you've ever said to yourself, "Oh, what is wrong with you? Why'd you just spend so much time on your phone?" I think we can help you with that conversation today, because we are negating out shame from a lot of our headspace. And this conversation also does that. So without further ado, let's talk about how to break up with your phone with Ashley Daigle. Welcome to High Vibe Table Talks, the podcast to help you, the current or aspiring solopreneur, navigate the messy middle so you can make both an income and an impact. Hi, I'm Rashawn, and I love creating safe spaces for women to be courageous in their dreams. After spending a decade working in sales for a startup and talking with hundreds of other women entrepreneurs, I know it can be lonely, but you can do this. We are having impactful conversations with people walking similar paths to you, so pull up a seat. This is High Vibe Table Talks. Ashley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ashley is a fellow podcaster, and I think we connected on... Did we connect on Threads or did we connect on...
No, it was LinkedIn. You hit me up. You dropped into my DMs.
Yeah. And now here we are.
Here we are. Yep. So I am Ashley, otherwise known as the Cheerbrarian. Okay, geographically, I am in the Chicagoland suburbs area, though I have to say I am from the South, from Louisiana. Got to give a plug for that. And who I serve, I have a podcast called Advice from the Cheerbrarian, which is pep talks and book recs in your ear holes from your well-read new best friend. I give life advice and book recommendations because life is hard. We all need help. Let me help you. That's my whole thing. That's my thing.
Mm-hmm. You joined the virtual co-working, and so we've had a lot of conversations, and why I wanted to bring you on here is because you brought attention to a new book for me, and I think that it's very relevant to the audience that I speak to.
Yeah.
And the book is called How to Break Up with Your Phone, and you gave me some advice from it, which made me mad, but then you're right.
That's how you know it's good advice. If you're immediately like arms crossed, pout face, like you probably should take that advice. Probably.
Yes. So tell me your experience with the book and why you think, like, why would you recommend that book to people?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is pretty important to me. So this was, I think it was the seventh episode of my podcast. So that tells you it was important because I talked about it early on. I knew right out of the gate I wanted to talk about it. And so it is all about redefining your relationship with your phone. So I found myself spending more time on my phone than I wanted to. But more than that, it was all this guilt I was saddling about the time I was spending using my phone. And I really wanted to find a better way to coexist because I'm not. Could I go get a flip phone or find a dusty Blackberry to use? Sure. Am I going to do that? No. The Pandora's box is opened. So I really wanted to figure out, and that's where the podcast came from. When I want to know something in life, when I'm having a struggle, I go and look for a book. So I came across this book, How to Break Up with Your Phone, and it really has changed my life. Like, not in the sense that like I'm perfect about my phone now. You're welcome, learn from me, but in the sense that it has given me context and it has given me tools and things that I can use. And I'm so excited to talk about it more today.
Yeah, and I think one of the really cool things that you talked about when we were first talking about it is a lot of the beginning of the book is the
Hmm.
science of it.
Yes.
And understanding that like there's no shame wrapped in like how much time you spend on your phone. First you have to understand how much time you are spending on your phone, but then like scientists are paid billions of dollars throughout the
Hmm.
world to create something that consistently brings you in. And so can you speak a little bit on the first part of it when it talks about like the science of it?
Absolutely. I have the book right here. It actually sits, I have stacks of books all over my house, but on my desk, I have like the ones I refer to the most. So this one lives where I can see it every day. So, like she was saying, the first part of the book is called The Wake Up, and that's where she details all the science. And so it's not just like scientists, it's like teams of engineers, like whole room auditoriums filled with people spend all the energy and time and brilliance they have with their degrees to make you want to use it. It is essentially they have used tools and tips and things that people use to engineer casinos so that you get the dopamine hit, so that you get just enough of a idea that something is going to happen. It goes down to like the colors. I know we talked about this. It is meant to be bright and shiny like a slot machine, and it makes you want to look at it. So one tip that you can do to sort of break that up is you can actually go into your phone and you can change it to grayscale, and it is amazing. Did you try that? I know we talked about it.
Mhm.
It is amazing what it like. You pick it up and it's easier to remember why you had the phone. You kind of stay on task because it's not fun to look at. It's just not as exciting. Oh, this chat. There's a part of it just called "Why Social Media Sucks." Oh man, she talks about killing your attention span. Woof. Because you're so used to getting all these inputs and all these hits, it changes how you're able to focus. And so, what was the best thing that I got from reading this book, other than the tips and tricks, was like the amount of guilt that I carry has really shifted because I've really internalized the fact that people are making this to make me stay on it. The fact that I don't stand, it's not that you need more willpower because I'm never going to be as good at a team of engineers at not looking at my phone. That's just facts. So you have to find other things to do to physically keep it away from you because I forgot the percentage. I think it's like once you pick up your phone, it's like it's exponential where like the minute you pick it up, you're 30% more likely to pick it up later. If it's in your sight, you're going to pick it up. So yeah, it's an uphill battle. You can work on it, but like from me to you, take any shame you feel and just poof, just release it into the atmosphere. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. The end.
Yeah. And I love a lot of what you talk about on your podcast as far as like the reason that you don't have a routine with exercise or with food or with your phone or with whatever it is that you think you should be doing more of is not because of your willpower. And we make it so much about us, and it's like, it's not about you. There's just so many other things that are going on in the world, and like you're not bad because you spent 2 hours on your phone scrolling through Instagram when you should have been cleaning or reading or whatever. So
Right.
I really like that sentiment that you share about a lot of different things on your podcast.
Thanks. Well, and it's important to set realistic boundaries because, like, I got into the trick at one point where, I would, reach out to, oh, I can't believe I was on my phone so much. And he's like, well, what should you have been doing? Why was it bad? And like there have been times when it's like, well, actually, I've demonized it so much that anytime I look at it, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But like, it's not that if I never want to look at it, well, then I should throw it in the trash can and go get a dusty Blackberry. But I have made the decision that this is a tool for me to use. So then I have to set some realistic parameters for how much I'd like to use it in the day. Like I have a tracker on the phone that tells me, but I don't find that that's helpful because, again, the tracker in your phone to help you not use your phone is made by the people who want you to use your phone. So it's not like going to be the best because part of it is like some days I've had really high usage. I look at it and it's like, oh, that's because I was in the car for an hour and I was using my map app, but it doesn't let you filter things like that out, right? So it's all just a bucket of guilt. And so I have it as like a tool to look at a little bit, but that was something I started initially. It was like, I'm going to look at that every day and keep it up there. All it did was make me feel bad. It wasn't actually changing my behavior.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
making you look at your phone more.
Hey. Yup.
One of the things that we talked about that you took from this book is like the pause in between when you're going to look at your phone and saying to yourself, like, what are you actually craving? What are you, because you're going to your phone, are you doing it to respond to someone? Are you looking for whatever, so can you share with us more like how that plays into how you connect with your phone?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's important is you need to apply the right solution to the right problem. So if I am on my phone right now because I'm feeling lonely, then, I've got some, list of things I could do instead of being on the phone. If one of them is go take a walk, well, that's great. That's going to get me physically moving. That's going to maybe like shake my mind up from whatever, spiral it was in, but that's not going to make me less lonely. So it's not going to fill what I was trying to use the phone for. So it's about looking and saying, okay, is it that I'm lonely? Okay, well, if it's lonely, then what you should do instead is text a friend and then, throw the phone across the room, right? Put it down, do the thing, talk to a person versus just looking at Facebook. Or if it's like, I know that I will use my phone to sort of hide from bad feelings. Just like I get upset or I make somebody upset and it's a natural pull to go look at the phone and just kind of void out your mind, just empty it out. Well, then again, reaching out to a friend when I'm trying to empty my mind isn't going to be great. Maybe what I need to do instead, that I don't like, is sit for a few minutes with those uncomfortable feelings because feelings are fleeting if you give them time to sort of dissipate. But if all I do is look at the phone, well, then the minute I put the phone down, I feel just as bad. And then guess what? I probably look at the phone again. So it's about identifying what are you trying to use the phone for? And can I do that in another way?
Yeah, I tend to disassociate into my phone when I'm
Sure.
like stressed or overwhelmed or, a lot of emotions that come just from life being life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, really definitely in the entrepreneurial world where sometimes it's like, I don't want to make a freaking decision. I don't know. So I'm just going to sit and I'm going to do something where I don't have to make a decision.
Yeah, because
But
it's
then
going to
you come
make it
up,
for you. It's just going to keep showing you stuff to look at, right?
right, right. And then like, because I didn't make a decision, now I come up from my phone and I'm like, God damn it. I just spent 45 minutes on my phone. I didn't make a decision. I'm such a bad entrepreneur. Again, building in that shame around like, why didn't I just? And so, how do you manage your relationship? A lot of my audience is
Hmm.
entrepreneurs. They are
Sure.
selling, they are having to put themselves out there. So, there's this balance of, I have to be on these platforms in order to sell, and I need to spend less time on those platforms. So, how do we like manage that relationship?
Right. Yeah. And I have the same thing where, like, I was kind of, before I started this podcast, I was kind of getting to a space where I was looking at it less and less, and I wanted to have more distance for me in social media. But just as you said, this thing that I'm doing is necessitating that. And so I think it starts with sort of setting up different boundaries and barriers throughout the day. For example, my phone charges. I'm not always perfect at it because I'm a person, not a robot, but I try to put my phone to bed around like 7:30 or 8 o'clock when we're starting to wind down for the evening. And putting it to bed means my phone goes in the room I'm in right now, which is not my bedroom. And that way, and it's a room, it's like where my clothes and stuff are. It's like my office. I'm not going in there really after 7:30. So I don't see the phone. Because the minute you see the phone, you'll want to touch the phone. That's what it's done to your brain. All of our brains are now worked, right? So it's about like, what can you change in the other times of the day, right? So then if in the evening I'm not using it as much, well, then that's going to change my relationship with it when I do have to use it in the daytime because it's not, and I think if you're honest with yourself, you, and listener, you know the difference between I need to be using this device right now because I need to make this content and I'm just procrastinating because I don't want to make a decision. So you have to be honest with yourself about, no, I need it now. You can also look at, are there other tools you can use? So can you use your laptop for some things that you're using your phone right now, which is going to be different? And then you pick up. So like, for example, for me today, I did a post about the episode that just dropped. I use my laptop to create everything in Canva when it's time to post it, because again, Instagram wants you to be on your phone. They don't make the app on the computer easy to use because they want you to use the phone and be looking at Instagram. So then I go on Instagram to open it, to load it, to do it. And then like, that's what I've opened it for. So you also have to sort of like, sometimes out loud to myself, I will say like, I'm picking up my phone to do this. Another quick tip is like to stand up when you're using if you're really like, oh, I just need to look up a quick thing and then I want to put it down, physically stand up, because you're less likely to keep looking at it when you're just standing in the middle of your room versus like, I'm sitting in a cozy chair, right? So I think it's about looking at in conclusion to my TED Talk right now, look at your behaviors and figure out what changes you can make sort of in all the other avenues of life, so that the work that you need to do for your entrepreneurship can sort of continue as is without having to be interrupted. You can also try time blocking. You can literally set alarms to be like, okay, this should take me 30 minutes. So I'm going to work on this for 30 minutes. And then if you finished in 20 minutes and then started messing around on social media, well, the alarm's going to go and you're going to go, whoop, you got me again, phone engineers. Let me, what are we going to call them? Phil the phone engineer. That's what we're going to call. Because I think naming things, you've heard me say this before, naming things takes power away. So like, I have Linda Lame Sauce is the name I use for my negative thoughts. So when my brain's being a pest, I can go, Linda, no thank you, we don't need this. So when you fall on your phone, you can just be like, you got me again, Phil, good job. And then it's funny, right? You're laughing because it's funny versus the shame spiral and whatever else. So
yeah, on our virtual co-working, kind of the first 20 to 30 minutes, we're talking about like where we are with business and stuff. And we all have those times where we're like, you and I have talked about like being on the podcast and be like, all of these ideas are so dumb and no one's ever going to listen to this episode. It's like, okay, Linda, or like Nancy, just no, this information is important. And, it's just our like lizard brain or whatever. Kind of, we relate to it a lot, to the characters on Inside Out, and they're all just kind of sitting around the table and they all have their reasons for being there. And sometimes we take their input and sometimes we don't.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's nice to hear it and say, I appreciate you and I'm not going to listen to you for the moment. When people hear like breakup and boundaries and some of these words, it can feel, and maybe this is just some of like my ADHD-ness as well, but like it feels very all or nothing versus kind of that, let me do 1% better today. It feels like, or even if someone wakes up and the first thing they do is look at their phone and they're like, well, there goes today. I guess today is just going to be a dopamine depraved day and I'm just going to be suckered into it. And so how do you manage those conversations with self?
So, and I can talk a little bit about that part of the book. So the breakup part. So she's got it laid out. It's like really prescriptive, which I found helpful, where it's meant to be a week 1, a week 2, a week 3, a week 4. I felt like that felt a little rushed for me. So I don't remember exactly because I did this, it was like a year and a half ago, but like I remember I maybe did week 1 was like a week, and then I took like 2 weeks to do the next parts of it. So I think like anything in life, You need to be realistic and adapt it to yourself and what you have going on. As for your thinking about sort of like catastrophizing, like that's some more of that negative stuff you have to push back about. And so I think you can set, you can use this as a tool and say, okay, what she's got going on here isn't really going to work for me. How can I modify it? How can I make it achievable? Because the point is to, exactly like you said, the point is to have progress. So if what she talks about seems like it's going to be a lot in general or with what you have going on, what can you do to make it smaller? So like the first week she's got is technology triage. So that's where she wants you, like, you're really examining, kind of doing some journaling, thinking about how you use things. Week 2 is where she wants you to work on changing the habits a bit. Week 3 is reclaiming your brain. And then week 4 and beyond is your new relationship. And so she does really talk about, like, this is a process. It's not like a one and done. There will be ebbs and flows along the way. But by the end of this thing she's got you doing, you should have, if you follow the steps, then you have sort of redefined it instead of just having like a default relationship. You've taken the time to look inside yourself and figure out, and maybe you do all this work and you go, you know what? Now that I read this book, I actually don't use it as, because I've got like statistics and stuff in here. You might be like, oh, well, this book has taught me I'm actually not using it that much at all. And my relationship doesn't need to change much. Like, I don't know what it's going to be, but you gotta push back against that noise. It's tricky though. It's tricky, like you said, to feel like it's all or nothing. But I didn't, with the tips that she's got here, I didn't feel that way. And it's meant to be over the course of a month. But again, you could change that however you want to,
Mm-hmm. Catastrophizing is one of my favorite words. I don't know. It just sounds so fun, like coming out, especially, I don't know. It's one of my favorite words, even though it's like terrible. It's like,
yeah, it's not good.
No one needs catastrophizing in their life, yet many of us do it quite often.
Well, and like the one more thing I want to say about that is, like, it's about setting a goal that is achievable. So maybe you look at your stuff and you look at your triage and you're like, I'm using my phone 6 hours a day and I don't like that. So I'm going to try to use my phone 5 hours and 55 minutes a day instead, right? That's just 5 minutes, but that's 5 more minutes to do something else. And like with anything in life, like you had mentioned, stuff with me and fitness and nutrition and all this, anything you can do incremental and small will build a habit, will give you more gas in the tank to want you to push forward. So do basically the least you can to make a difference will eventually lead to you being able to make a bigger difference for yourself. I know it's easy to get excited and dive all in and be like, I'm going to completely change my relationship, but like, that's not practical. That's not how people work. Like, calm down.
An example that most people can relate to is like how many excited people are in the gym every January. And then how many of those same people are in the gym in March. And it's, it can be really excited to be like, okay, I got this book and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to totally change my relationship with my phone. And I'm going to, go from 6 hours a day to 1 hour a day. And it's like, when you have that inspiration, that motivation, that stuff wears off relatively quickly. And so how can you do something that is sustainable and that is coming from someone who definitely struggles with that? I preach it a lot, and preach is not the right word, but like my tagline is big dreams and small steps can transform your life. And it's like, it's great to have those North Star goals and you do them one step at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy advice to say, not always easy to take, right? Because you're like, yeah, that's true. And I believe it. But also, I would like this to be great today.
Yeah. Yes. Because when we were talking about it, you were like, okay, Marshawn, you need to go into your phone and you need to go to Threads and you need to turn off notification. Yes. And I was like, how dare you?
But you did it, didn't you?
But I did it. I did. Mm-hmm. And it definitely helped.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like, what's my number one tip that has been impactful? And you just brought it up, actually, is minimize the amount of notifications. You don't need your phone to keep telling you. I don't get notifications for Instagram or Facebook Messenger or Threads. The only one I get is Snapchat. And that's because I really use Snapchat to video chat with like 5 of my friends. So it's like texting essentially for me. But all the rest of them, TikTok, it will be there when you go look at it. You don't need it to tell you got one ping. And it makes you feel better, honestly, if I go and there's like, oh, there's 5 things. 5 things is better than one thing, and our monkey brains will not remember that there were five in the day. They just remember, oh, there was one, there was one, there was one, right? So you're not helping yourself by looking at it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that is really cool too, because I'm leaning into my relaxed entrepreneur era where it's like, if anything in my business makes me feel super rushed, then it's not for me. And if it's like, oh my gosh, but if I don't get back to that person on Instagram right away, or if I don't respond to that email or LinkedIn message right away, they're never going to become my client. They're never going to sign up. Then they're going to think, they're going to have all these thoughts in their head. And it's like, well, if that's the type of business that I'm building, then I don't want to build that business and I need to
Right.
pivot and do something different.
Right.
And so I think it really, for me, and kind of what I'm looking to do is, if I have to get back right away, it's contradictory to that pillar of my business.
Yeah. Well, and that's another episode I did, was about the power of say no to immediately responding, because that ties back into the phone, because everything can be immediate. So again, not just you, everybody feels like everybody has to respond to everything. So everything just keeps moving faster and faster. Like, if you want life to slow down, like, be the change you want to see. Mahatma Gandhi that, like, put the brakes on.
Awesome. Ashley,
Indeed.
are you ready for lightning round questions?
I hope so. We'll find out, won't we?
The first one is going to be really hard for you.
Oh gosh.
What is a must-read book?
Got it. Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club series.
Oh.
It is a 4-book series. It is cozy, and I cannot wait to go to England to visit these people, because they're obviously not fictional characters. They're obviously very real people, because he wrote them wonderfully. So if, like me, you loved Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury, imagine Murder, She Wrote, except instead of one Jessica Fletcher, there are 4. So it's about 4 octogenarians who live in a assisted nursing community, who start solving murder. They literally have the Thursday Murder Club. They meet like after the puzzle club in the group room. They're adorable. Although one of them is like a retired FBI, or not FBI, what is it? MI6. She's a retired agent. We have like a sweet lady. We've got like a bruiser kind of guy, and we've got a psychologist. And you will love it. There's a movie coming out soon. It's going to be amazing. Thank you. Oh God, that was so stressful. I have so many books.
And we love a good cozy book, especially this time of year. I actually took out a couple Ellen Hildebrandt books from my last round at the library. I started to pick them up and I was like, it is 60 and leaves are falling. Like, this is just not the vibe. I'm very, very much.
I think it'd be a good vibe to me. I don't know, but like England just makes me think cozy.
Yeah.
Also.
Yep. Question number 2. What does creativity mean to you?
First thing that came to mind is, surprising to me that I'm going to say this, but it means making mistakes, because you're trying to create something. So it means, trial and error. It means giving yourself sort of the freedom to grow and try something. And it usually for me also means sharing it with somebody else, because I need validation from other human beings.
Yes, I love that. I love the embracing of the mistakes and the, again, it's another example of releasing the shame. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I got a book podcast and an advice podcast.
I know.
You're killing me with this.
I know.
The best piece of advice I've ever received. Oh my gosh. This is one that's been on my mind lately, which is kind of ties back into the phone stuff, which is practice the pause. And I've been doing a meditation practice pretty consistently, and that has given me more space in life to sort of, before I just bleh and say the first thing that comes out of my mouth, there's not a lot of filter going on here. Take a second, take a stock of the person you're talking to. Like, give yourself a moment before diving into whatever's going on.
I wrote that when we were like brainstorming what we wanted to talk about, and it is the power of the pause. And I think it's so important. In all relationships, it's like, okay, I want to say this and I want to maintain this relationship with this person. So how can I do so in a way that is supportive of that relationship?
Yeah. Also, you got to drink more water. I just got to throw that out there. I say that at the end of every podcast. I'm like, drink more water. Okay, bye. You got to drink more water. Everybody, go get some water. I'm going to drink some right now.
You have to stop yelling at me. It's really not cool.
Nice.
What is something that's on your bucket list?
I don't have a bucket list. So I guess making a bucket list is on my bucket list. But just there's a lot of places I want to travel to. Honestly, I haven't been to England before, so that would be a big one. And New Zealand. I really want to go to New Zealand. But yeah, that's where my mind's at right now. International travel. It's a lot of the world to see, a lot of food to taste, for sure.
What is the coolest shit you've done in the last year or are currently working on?
I guess this podcast, because that started last February and it's a thing I wanted to do. And now I'm doing it and people sometimes tell me they like it, which is great, I guess. Shrug.
Yeah, that's why I added this question, because I think that we can downplay the cool stuff that we're doing. Like, oh yeah, I just run a podcast. It's fine. Like, it's whatever, like on to the next thing. But I want this to be a place to like celebrate doing the scary stuff that feels like it feels really out there, and then you do it and then you're like, oh, I did that thing, So very cool. Where can people find you?
I am on all the pod platforms. So it is Advice from the Cheerbrarian, which is like cheerleader and librarian. I smushed them together and made a new word because I felt like it. I have a website. I would love for people to find me on Instagram or Threads. I'm really enjoying engaging there. And that again is Cheerbrarian. All the places.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you.
If you like that episode, please leave a review. Those are always so helpful on whatever platform you listen to this. Until next time, remember that big dreams and small steps will transform your life.